Welcome to the Stronger Together podcast brought to you by Sandpoint Strength and Conditioning. I'm your coach, Kenny Marquardt. Today I'm joined by a longtime friend of mine, longtime gym member, former nutrition coach, practice owner, Ammi Midstokke. Ammi's got a ton of knowledge, experience in this field, as well as just worldly knowledge and perspective that I honestly adore our conversations together, whether they're public on a podcast or they're just in passing in person. She's a tremendous human being, and she has not much of a filter, and I don't either. So just a fair warning that there's a little bit more explicit content in this episode, just some swear words and stuff, but you may not want to have your kids in the room to listen. So yeah, enjoy. We're live now. We're on it. Ammi, you've been a part of this organization or whatever we're calling this for a long time. How did you start at the gym? Do you remember?
Yes, and it begins with a personal story about you, which is how I love to start everything.
Yes.
Do you remember that bakery that used to be like across from the birth center? Yeah, so you and I had coffee there, and you had come. I think I was writing for the Out There magazine or something, and you had come sort of shielding your eyes into the birth center because you and Jen,
That's
Jen, I'm
right.
sure was like, here we go. And you were like, yes, we're doing this. And then I found out you owned the CrossFit gym, had coffee with you to write a story. Remember that
Yeah,
one where I was talking about the names of CrossFit workouts all sounding like hookers from Vegas?
I
And they
do.
were all like banging Bambi.
Yes,
So I wrote that story and then I came to the gym.
that's right. That's awesome. I'm glad you refreshed that memory of mine. And you're right. Yeah, that was quite a, I don't know, embracing the discomfort experience for me walking at the birth center and that whole home birth. Yeah, it was a wild adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And here we
Louise.
are. Whatever that is. It must be 12 years then. So
I guess so, because that's how long you've had the gym, right?
yeah,
And
13 in
yours.
November. But yeah, Garrison's was right after that. So we decided to move across the country, start a gym, have a kid, you know, whatever.
How
Just
many
throw it all
puppies
up in the
did
air.
you get?
How many puppies?
Yeah.
We just have the one, and I desperately want a flock of doodles.
Really? A
It's
doodle? Everybody's all into those doodles, and I'm not convinced.
you know what? I wasn't either, and I carry that little 40-pound dog around like I want a little like carry pouch for her and the
Oh my
rest of the
gosh.
flock.
I was asking about the puppies because I had this like collection of friends. I still have them. I have this collection of friends. Not that I got rid of them because I got doodles, but they would be like, I'm gonna get a puppy and have a baby at the same time.
Yes,
Like that wasn't just like having, fucking twins or something. Like,
right,
okay, okay.
totally. Why we might as well just we're gonna be home. We might as well just raise an animal.
Yeah, yeah. If I have to, use hand sanitizer 18 times a day already, not use hand sanitizer but more handle toxic substances and human waste, might as
Yeah,
well handle some dog waste all day too.
yeah. Let's just deal with all the waste all at the same time, all the messes in the carpet. Let's just do it all. No, I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's a
Mhm.
couple steps away from divorce. I think that's a headed down that path quickly. But then
Mhm.
after you started the gym, you started leading a lot of nutrition challenges for us. Maybe not a lot, but a handful. Remember those
Oh, yeah,
days?
things.
Paleo
Yeah, we did
challenges.
a couple, right? We probably did some like paleo was very popular at the time. People were
Yep.
going grain free. I had done like a paleo alcohol free year at the time after I survived my vegan year. Boy, that did some damage. We
There
totally,
was a couple of years I remember you having. It was like every year there was a new like. I think
yeah.
we had. I actually think we had a lunch or something too about. You might have been picking my brain on some other. I do recall that too. A
The
lunch like I
next,
think
like,
I'm gonna do this.
how should I suffer for a year? There's a writer, and I cannot remember his name. I think his last name might be Abrams, but he does weird challenges, and he read the entire Encyclopedia Britannica and wrote a book about it, it's fantastic. But he also did a year of living like by Christ's rules. And I think he's from New York City. And so he was like always wearing the same like linen cloth bag and a pair of sandals. And speaking of divorce, his wife afterwards was like, "All right, already.
No more washing
That's
prostitutes'
enough of
feet.
these. Like, let's see what it's actually like." Yeah, yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, the self experimentation is, I think, fun. A year can be. You might have learned your lessons a couple of weeks into it and just moved on.
yeah. I like the science of it, especially if it comes to nutrition. Doing something for 30 days, I think, is more producing of disordered eating, where you're just
Yeah.
like, I felt so amazing when I didn't have grains. And then you always think you have to be like that,
Yeah.
rather than making sustainable small change. And so for me, when I would do things, I would like to take like labs and then do the thing for a year, typically train for some kind of endurance event because that's my jam. And then do labs again and see how things were. Not
Yeah.
surprisingly, when I was a vegan, I got a stress fracture. But boy, was I skinny. And like one time I went to go get Rolfed, and the doctor guy, Owen Marcus, you guys
Yep.
remember him?
I
Owen
do. I
said
got an
he
argument
wouldn't
with him
work
with
on
you.
me
Yeah.
because my muscles were too stringy. He was like, I can't work on you if you're going to keep being a vegan.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
Um,
But yeah,
yeah.
you're right. That's why we stopped. I think we stopped doing. There were so many of those stories of like, holy shit, I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. Like this was amazing. I feel so great. And then on day 31, it was like straight back to the whatever
Yeah.
it was, and then it bounced back. But you're right. The all or nothing thing was it's an
Yeah.
interesting lesson if you take it the right way, but it can be really disordered if you don't.
This over restriction and over permission, I think, I'm curious about it's kind of like we wouldn't have that ability back in the day. Like on an evolutionary or even like during the agricultural changes that we wouldn't have had access to be able to restrict and over permit like that. And I just don't think that our brains are designed for it.
Hmm.
And what I see, having been a nutritionist for over a decade, is that the more people do those things, the more they include like shame cycles and are just trying to look for the next thing without digging deeper into some of the causes of like our gluttony. And we have like lots of coping mechanisms around food. We have tons of external messages around food. I mean, you can't go grocery shopping without candy bars singing their siren song while you're standing right there. Like how is anybody supposed to have control over that? It's like, chit-chatting with a heroin addict and being like, "Here's my stuff, but you probably don't want any of this, do you?"
Totally. No,
Yeah.
that's a great. I love all that. I think that's one of the things. I actually sent an email out this morning that was kind of said the same thing about like, hey, you're probably feeling at the end of this season, at the end of summer, like you've said yes to too many things, you've drank too much alcohol, you've eaten too much food, you haven't slept enough. But that's cool. Like don't. That's normal. So have I. So is everybody else. It's okay. The next season will probably not be that, and there's no reason to feel shame or like you need to like Tuesday morning after Labor Day, you need to go totally whatever grain free, paleo,
Mhm.
abstinent, all the things. So that's just it. There's a degree of that. I think the undulations are just smaller than people want them to be. It's all or
Mhm.
nothing. So, and I don't think that that's realistic. Again, the disorder of that is not awesome. So,
And do you think it also fosters sort of a binge attitude where it's like the bad thing's going to happen? And so there's this like cram all the bad behaviors in or the coping mechanisms or whatever. I talked about, in my clinic, I had this thing that I would draw where on both sides of the chart, there were these extremes. And, we kind of talked about the behaviors at the top, like at the top end of restriction, you don't have any friends because nobody wants to fucking have you over. You're an elitist bitch, right? And you're like, I don't eat that.
yes.
Um, and it's righteous and you feel like really in control, so there's some good parts to it. You don't have to set any rules. They're set and you're in this restricted rigid thinking. And then as you move your way down from behaviors to sensations and emotions, it comes with this fear of knowing that the other end of that is not to the middle. Nobody ever
Mm,
goes to the middle.
yeah.
And what they do is they like hold on as long as they can because they know that the other side, when the pendulum swings over to over permission, they are still in this like allow everything piece that creates this other shame cycle. And they stay there until it's so intolerable because they feel so bad that they're willing to go through the suffering at the other side of the pendulum again of over restriction. And it's just this like over restrict, over permit, but it's such a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Like at no place in there does somebody feel secure and confident and like balanced.
No, totally. And I'm not sure this analogy is going to work that well, but the drug reference you just made is super similar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's nobody's going on heroin for 3 months and then hard stopping cold turkey for 3 months. Like, I mean, maybe that'd be an interesting study to see. But
Have you
it's
read Shantaram?
why, yes, that's a great. There's two books, isn't there not?
Yes, and he claims that it's like based on his real life. I would very much categorize it as auto fiction, and I don't think you went and ran guns after your 3 month stint of heroin. But
That's right.
he
That was a great book. Yeah.
he's a great storyteller, but he does that. He goes and he's like, I'm just gonna go do heroin in a cave for 3 months, not a cave, in a dingy room where somebody slips him a meal under the door every 3 days.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, speaking of privilege, uh,
Sign up for my
you
new
get really
retreat.
privileged if you can plan your drug retreats, and I'm not talking about ayahuasca here.
Right. Right. But it's so similar. I think the same thing is so similar. It's the permission and restriction thing. It's just in the like, I get so concerned about people's guilt. I meet so many new people in the gym and they are so ashamed of the fact that they can't do it on their own and they need
Mhm.
support and they are subject to, you know, temptation and they fall into these things. I'm like, yeah, so do I. Like that's why we just don't keep drugs in the house. Like we don't keep crappy food in the house because I will eat it. I'm not. That's just like you're. It's way too hard to walk past those things and not eat them. So just
Mhm.
same thing. Like you don't keep drug addicts don't keep drugs in the house. So I guess what I'm trying to say. So usually, if they're trying to succeed. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. Are you? I don't even know this. Are you doing any nutrition coaching at all right now?
No.
Yeah.
So the which means that I'm much more prone to give free advice. It's funny because I'm not all burnt out all the time. So I sold the clinic 2 years ago, and the lady who has it is on maternity leave, and so she has a very different approach. But in the later years of my clinical work, I really specialized in trauma and addiction.
Mm,
So and autoimmune diseases that are often correlated with long-term stress, high inflammation, plus some people are addicted to frozen burritos, and some people and porn. So that's the men. Frozen. We're gonna get a
in
little binary
conjunction.
for a minute here, okay? So the men, porn, frozen burritos,
Huh?
whiskey sometimes. The women are like cupcakes and shopping and shame.
Yeah.
Like the shame cycle, it exists in both of them, but the women, I think that the impression that I have experienced is that the messaging from society about how you should look is very blatant for women. And it's, I mean, I've seen GQ, it's there too,
Mhm.
but it seems to be exacerbated for women in society. And so, and those identifying as women. And so I really spent the last probably 7 years in my clinical environment specializing in that kind of an approach, like people who were struggling with disordered eating, whether they were over restricting or over permitting. Like my favorite was when somebody would come in and be like, I have to go off sugar. I'd be like, yeah, why? Like you just diagnosed yourself.
Yeah.
And then lots of like serious exposure to trauma. So my clients in the later years all had typically a trifecta of practitioners. Sometimes if they weren't taking any prescription medication, then I would just work with their therapist. And if they were taking prescription medications, then with their therapist and their prescribing practitioner. So maybe it is like from someone from behavioral health. We have a couple of really great nurse practitioners that do psychiatric work, and their counselor. And then it wasn't like to get people off meds. Was definitely out of my scope. But a lot of people would come in and be like, I want to be off my meds. And we would look at like, well, what is most thriving look like for you? Because it might include medication.
Sure.
Um, and although I'm a big proponent of hippie sauce, I also totally believe in better living through chemistry
Yeah.
and eradicating the shame around that too. Like I shouldn't need
Totally.
antidepressants. And I'm like, well, are they like keeping you functional? Like
Yeah.
let's start with that.
Yeah.
So a lot of mental health there. So now occasionally someone will, typically it's a therapist, will reach out to me and say, hey, I have a special case. Would you consider it? And usually I would do like an immersion therapy. So maybe they come to town for a week and they get an Airbnb and their therapist is here and I'm here and I do like core work around behaviors, change management. Sometimes it's very basic skills like college kids who don't know how to cook and they are addicted to bad foods and they can't, like I had a girl once who couldn't even eat a slice of cucumber without gagging.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean?
Too healthy.
It was too healthy. Like her
Yeah,
body
she
just
had
wouldn't.
like no taste buds or texture tolerance for anything that wasn't like beige.
Wow.
Yeah, beige
Interesting.
foods. Yeah. So that kind of deeper work. But now I really haven't now I just write,
That's
really.
awesome. On
Yeah.
that, there's a couple things I want to explore a little bit. Did you had you built up enough of a reputation that people knew what they were coming in for with you, or were you still overcoming a like, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds, and then you're asking these a lot of deeper questions that they're like, wait a minute, no, I I want to lose 20 pounds. We're not talking about this. That has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great question. I think it's a little of both. So most of my referrals came from therapists and doctors, which is
Mhm.
great. Like I didn't advertise. Occasionally somebody would get me on the phone and say, I want to lose 20 pounds. Or I love the vanity loss that's like, I have to go to this wedding and I need to lose 10 pounds. Some middle-aged woman who's going to
Yeah.
run into her ex. We're
Yes.
not judging it, right? Like,
Sure. Right. Yeah. Again.
but I would be like, I don't know if I'm the right fit for that because you really could just starve yourself. You can starve yourself for 3 weeks and lose 10 pounds. It's
Yeah.
fine. It will cost you so much less money because you don't pay for me and you don't
Yep.
pay for food.
Everybody wins. What could go wrong?
Yeah. So, but sometimes in the conversation, especially if it's like a middle-aged woman, then I would be like, so tell me more about that and dig around. And if they seemed like open or like relieved at the prospect of maybe nothing's wrong with my diet, maybe it's about what's underneath it that's compelling me to do these things.
Yeah.
um, Even just reducing stress and inflammation by having those conversations helps people lose weight.
Sure.
Um, and so people would kind of like figure out if I was a right fit. And we have other practitioners in town because it wasn't uncommon for, especially in family dynamics, where like a mom who of course doesn't have disordered eating would bring their teenager, because I worked a lot with those schools that we have here, and be like, well, I had to put a lock on the fridge because she's overeating. And I would be like, yeah, okay. So I'm just going to call CPS for a minute and
Yeah.
then and then we'll talk about this. That they didn't like me. It would be parents when I would say like, what you're doing, because I'm not filtered. I'd be like, what you're doing is tantamount to child abuse. And yeah, I did say that to a family once that had told me it was their diabetic kid's birthday, and instead of making a cake that their kid could eat, they scraped the frosting off so that the other siblings could have frosting cake and the diabetic kid could only have the dry cake. And they only came once. I was so livid. Like I could
Yep.
not hold back. So I'm not a good fit. I was not a good fit for everyone, that's for sure.
Yeah. But man, I'm not necessarily qualified to make observations on that. But man, like you're saving these kids from the future. Like that's future disordered stuff they're going to have to deal with. Like they're going to have to deal with it at some point. So
Yeah.
might as well do it on the earlier side.
Right. And just like, how does that kid feel watching everybody else have all this joy and they get the like fucking rice cracker in the corner?
Well, we're all gonna watch you eat this, or you're gonna watch us eat this and have so much joy, and you
Yeah.
suffer.
At the Waldorf school, I'm sure they do this at all the schools now because there's so many allergies, but over at the Waldorf, the freezer is full of like special treats for the kids. Like in case somebody has a birthday party and they can't eat the thing, they don't
Uh-huh.
have to live on a rice cracker. They have like, I don't know, gluten-free donuts or something.
Yeah. I mean, that's all on a spectrum now too. I think the messaging that comes from parents nutritionally and fitness wise, and like there's so much messaging that we do and give and have to be aware of to help. I mean, if our best job or our best outcome for our kids is them being successful, like there is a lot that we are probably passing down to them without even noticing it.
Oh,
And
so much.
yeah,
I was doing a talk a while ago about how like we have these marionette strings of our children that we need to sever and recognize that we're here to steward them, and they aren't extensions of us,
yeah,
and we don't understand the messaging, the subliminal messaging and direct messaging that they get around our stuff. So even just being able to have the conversation about being like, I'm probably messing you up right now. I'm saying this thing, and I want to talk about why it's probably not good to be saying it, but it's out there anyway.
yeah. We're also unwinding our own stuff from our parents and whatever's been imparted upon us. So we're doing our own work while we're trying to work with our kids too.
Yeah, at least we're doing it. I think,
Yeah.
that for generations, I have all these theories about like why narcissism is such a thing right now. And we're not going to diagnose people because we're not qualified, but like that has both been a more frequent diagnosis and it's overused in culture. Like everybody's just saying it. All the TikTok therapists out there.
Right.
God, I would
Yep.
be so successful on TikTok. And, um, about just like how these different generations, like my parents, and there is definitely narcissism in my parent lineage, and but they were raised by these people who had so much wealth and were drinking cocktails at 3 in the afternoon while pregnant,
Yeah.
and then like that happened for a lot of people, and so then we have this like generation that has sort of a cluster of what we now label as personality disorders or behaviors. And then like in the 80s and 90s, like therapy kind of was, it wasn't like psychoanalysis anymore, but there was like a little bit of dabbling in therapy, or women were reading Women Who Run with the Wolves and eating mushrooms with their girlfriends if they were super hip. And then like therapy has become more regular, and we talk about transgenerational trauma, and like we're doing all of that work, and I see it just sort of as like a conscious progression in society ideally, and maybe people are over therapied, but at this point in my life I'm like, as long as you're still making decisions for yourself, it's okay.
Yeah. No, that's totally true. I'm 40, so having a conversation with somebody in their 60s, and they were talking about how in their upbringing therapy was for great. Like you were crazy if you went to therapy.
Yeah, it was like
Like
school.
yeah, like you should be locked in a cage. Like you're one step away from them throwing you in the loony bin, which is probably not the politically correct term for it anymore. But in any case, that was the perception of therapy, and now it's a
Mhm.
pretty commonplace practice for people to try and recognize, like, hey, maybe I making decisions or my thoughts or whatever are based on some other thoughts. Let's have an impartial third party help me explore
Mhm.
these things. I think that's good. I think you're right. There might be some over use of it, but for the most part, I think it's nice to notice that there's some work to be done.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I feel like I had somebody use an analogy recently that was sort of like preventative medicine. Like you go to the doctor and check on stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
So what if you have an established relationship with a resource that is like, man, I'm going through a hard thing right now, whether it's change or loss or divorce, or you see a pattern that's not serving you, like, I don't know, your burrito addiction. And
How do you know about my burrito addiction? I don't. I eat tacos every day. That's a pretty well known fact.
oh
So
man, who doesn't though?
yeah, I
That
don't know.
that doesn't count. That's the socially acceptable addiction. Like those canned cocktails, White Claw. You know, it's
At 3
the
p.m.
nutritional version of White Claw.
That's right.
God, those things are awful. Have you ever had them?
Oh,
They're
yes.
a
I've
sponsor.
had my fair share of them, yes, for sure. That's
Oh, there's other options. They are so, ugh. But sorry, White Claw.
sorry, we're sponsored by White Claw. I don't know if I told you
Yeah,
that already.
oops, edit that out.
I'll have to cut this out.
Yeah,
My
I can
seltzer
tell you what
water.
I do like to drink if you want to get some sponsorship.
Uh, in terms like on the psychology of nutrition, and I'm so fascinated by this still because one of the things I am so tempted to tell nearly everybody that walks in the door is like, this goal you have isn't going to bring happiness.
Mm,
And I think that's a really challenging concept for a lot of people to hear.
hmm
And it's almost disappointing because I'm like, yeah, I don't losing, we'll use the 20-pound example. I'm like, that's not going to do it for you. I don't know what to
hmm
tell you. Like, you should just fall in love with the practice and know that this is a long term thing that you should probably be doing. Because I find that to be the case. You know, it's you hit 20 pounds, like you will not have spent more than 10 seconds happy about that or talking yourself down out of why that wasn't, you're disqualifying your success or whatever it is. And you're immediately going to find the next thing
hmm
to be obsessed about or disappointed with yourself about.
hmm
Do you find the same or am I out on a limb?
It's really interesting because I'm also looking at like through the lens of the new, we were talking before this about peptides, but peptides like semaglutide.
Mm,
And um, I think that there are some things happening in the world that can greatly shift uh, the amount of energy put into stuff, like the soul sucking work of working and not having the goals that you want be
mm,
achieved. And I think of it like, even for me, you've known me long enough that I've come in the gym so many times being like, I want to lose 5 pounds or 10 pounds or wherever that came from, which is interesting because, I used to be morbidly obese. I have a picture I will not show you. I have one photograph that I saved just as a reminder. It's really sad. It's super sad to see it because one thing, I have a cigarette hanging out of my mouth too. That's a good, you'd think if I had smoked, I wouldn't have been so obese. But I was somehow not getting the combination right. Um, so I've been like so much heavier and I've been leaner. Like my vegan year was tiny.
yeah.
And I wasn't healthy. I had lots of illness. I had broken bones, and very little muscle. And, um, but I had a very different relationship with my body at the time, and I felt really good about my body. And I didn't need to be strong. I wasn't going to a normal gym. I was running ultra distances, and I could fit into things that definitely were approved by society. And when I saw myself, I could say, like, oh, that's a beautiful woman based on how lean I was.
Mm,
And so later when I came to the gym, it's really like I gained weight for a number of reasons. Both my body composition changed and I put on a lot of muscle.
mhm.
That tends to happen when you're throwing a barbell around.
Yeah.
Um, but it didn't meet the standards. And I think that the obsession component of it is really debilitating and like a form of mental illness. And that when people the idea is like if I reach this weight, I'm going to be happy because I get to not or whatever this goal is, but I think weight is very different than like running a marathon or something.
Yeah.
So, let's say I want to lose 20 pounds and I reach this, I'm going to be free of this messaging that is plaguing me.
Mm,
What I don't see change is that the messaging goes away. So we might feel better in some components. We might not have the pressure of society. We might be able to buy clothes in the size that we like and feel like I look a certain way or it's comfortable in my body. Like it feels good to be lighter in a lot of ways. And but the mind fuck of maintaining it or the guilt and the shame every time you have a frozen burrito or a cupcake, like that piece does not go away.
yeah.
And I don't know what your experience is at the gym with trying to help people. I think you guys have really done good with that. I think anytime you have like a food measuring program, that can be risky because it's
Sure.
it's another kind of restriction, but it's
Yep.
also very educational. A lot of
Yeah.
people have no understanding of what they should be eating.
Yep.
But I feel like you've always done a really good job of letting people know this is about lifestyle and health that has
Mm.
many markers and kind of combating that sociocultural push of like, this is what a body should look like.
Yeah.
But if you have Instagram, the micro shame messaging that you're scrolling past doesn't matter. You go to the gym for 45 minutes and you feel good because Kenny's there saying like you're looking strong, and then you go scroll Instagram and you hate yourself again.
Gone. Yep. Totally. I think the empowerment through the achievement of those things and
Hmm.
or the education through food measuring or tracking your weights, any of that stuff is, I think the empowerment should probably be the goal, which is hard to quantify, but having people understand they can make the choices based on, there's pros and cons to damn near everything.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
if you want to be significantly overweight or overnourished, I guess, like there's a great, like you get to enjoy food. Like that's awesome. But the downside is you're probably going to be overnourished and you're going to may shorten your lifespan. The other side, the extreme other is like, you know, super shredded and have to turn everyone down because you eat chicken and broccoli all the time. And I think that knowing that the decision, like having control over the decisions that you make and the confidence to know that you have that within you is cool. Like, I think that's the goal. I don't know how that came through, but I think that's,
Like self-efficacy.
totally.
Right, right. I can do the thing I want to do, or I can achieve the thing I want to achieve.
Yeah.
I have this analogy that I talk about sometimes is that, and I think it might have come from my dad after I ran my first marathon. And he said to me something to the extent of like, everybody wants to have run a marathon, and most people could get through a marathon, but not everybody can train for 4 months
Yeah.
to enjoy it.
Right.
And I think that that's a component of like our approach in society to what we achieve is like it would be really cool to have done that, but the journey is less interesting. and,
Right. Yes.
but the learning and the lessons and the benefits come in the journey, not from going
Yes.
and cranking out 26 miles.
1,000,000%. And back to the social media side of things, that's, I think, the hardest is that snapshot into the window of that thing and not seeing the, you know, all that's behind it,
Hmm.
whether it's good or bad or indifferent. Like you just don't, that doesn't tell any part of the story, but that
Hmm.
segment of the race. And I think that that can be very misleading for people to understand.
Hmm. What do you think about like, let's say somebody, I don't know if there's research about this, but I would be curious if somebody went and got like 20 pounds liposuctioned out of them and somebody lost 20 pounds and we looked at like what are their measurements of happiness and satisfaction afterwards, is it the same? Because I think about with the GLP-1 blockers,
Mhm.
everybody's taking them. I'm a big fan for a number of reasons,
Mhm.
but there's this huge culture of like not like it's not the cool way to lose weight. Even
Yeah.
anorexia scores higher on social acceptance than taking semaglutide these days or Ozempic and
Yep.
Wegovy and these things
Yep.
because people aren't earning their way there. Whereas I would call it restorative justice. Like for all the listeners out there, taking those blockers is restorative justice. Like whatever happened to us in society that makes us overeat, whether it's the candy bars as we're checking out or some shitty childhood of scarcity or abuse or whatever, stress because we're trying to raise teenagers.
Mhm.
Like I want it to be okay to for everybody to find their way to feel comfortable.
The guilt that I hear from people, because again, in having the personal conversations that I get to have with so many of these people, like there's so much shame that I hear from them about it. Like so it's like they murdered a bunch of kittens. They're like, I'm on
Mhm.
GLP-1s. I'm like, sweet, like good for you. That's awesome. Like you're in here, you're doing the things. Like here's the thing. Again, back to the choices side of it. It's like, well, here's what, yeah, you're doing. If you're in this gym or you're doing any sort of strength training, like that's probably gonna uh, offset any of the negative stuff. And you're like, if that allows you to live the life that you want to live, and you're, I don't know, like that, what's the downside? Why are you disappointed or ashamed of this? And the same, like you said, like with antidepressants or drugs, like pharmacological intervention is can be a phenomenal thing. We live in an very advanced age that allows us to use medicine for things that makes life better. We live a lot longer than 36 than we used in the 1800s.
Oh,
There's a
and
good reason for that.
right, and there's Kraft mac and cheese, right?
Right.
So these aren't we have to, and yes, I know in an ideal world we would all have our own gardens and live off those foods, and we would be doing crop fit, not CrossFit. That's wonderful. But that's not the world that we live in. And in this short life, I'm like, what do you need to do to reduce your comorbidities
Yeah.
and
Right.
feel as good about yourself navigating this tough world? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I wish we could eliminate the shame around that. And I've had that a lot where people would come in and be like, "Should I take this thing? Do I still have to see you if I take this thing?" I'm like, "I don't know. Save your money. I don't know what you need, but like and also, I was just telling somebody the other day who was asking, like, should I take these? I was like, oh, yeah, just think, they're like, oh, it's so expensive. And I was like, oh, no, there's a compounding pharmacy.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how to save money doing these things. And also, you'll eat just that much less food,
Yeah.
right? You save on your frozen burritos and your glazed donuts, and you take this pharmaceutical and get to where you want to be and then look at it from there. But I just, there's so much judgment everywhere. Like, there's nothing we can do that's good enough.
My biggest concern with it is the body dysmorphia that was so much. I felt like we were on such a good path of that where like the strong is sexy thing was a
Hmm.
was a was a really cool. Like I thought that was great. It was like, what can your body do, not what it
Hmm.
looks like. And I realize that's on a spectrum too in terms of I don't know. It's people probably want both,
Yeah.
but like the concern where I'm like, holy shit, like I don't think you need to lose more weight. Like, but then the standard the beauty standard being super skinny again, I'm not in
Hmm.
love with that. And
No.
because again, I think there's people taking it where they're like, well, shit, I can lose another 20 pounds and weigh 115 like I did when I was 12. Like, that'd be cool. Like, I don't think that's cool. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think that's a good idea.
And then their skin hangs off them because if we're older, it doesn't rebuild. And I have, having been an obese person, I have that already. And I'm like, oh, you kind of get an eye for it of people that are like, oops, you lost a little too much.
Yeah.
But then, Kenny, you just start taking testosterone and you bulk up.
But what about what? Because yeah, you lose a lot of body fat in your face. Like, and I've seen you do start to notice the Ozempic face. Like, again, I'm not. This
Yeah,
is
and I
I'm
hear
not
that
trying to
there's
shame any of that
this.
stuff. I'm just
I
saying.
know that they're like people are like, oh my God, I just lost my butt. But I think that it doesn't replace exercise. And
Yeah.
you and I are going to be
Correct.
really biased as the science also supports. Like exercise is essential, whether we are lean or not lean. And all of those products, anything that we do, even exercise, has a risk of overuse.
Yes.
So it will be, yes, it will be a factor that people are overusing it. I'm sure down in Hollywood, that's an issue that they're facing. I don't know about an issue. They probably wouldn't call it that, but and still, it's cheaper than the cocaine they take. So
Find a compounding pharmacy. But yeah, I think that's just those are the standards. I think transparency and open conversations about this stuff makes it more acceptable, but also tells more of the story because
mhm.
the same thing does happen in a very different way. But I call it Brozempic, like the TRT thing for guys. I'm like, dude,
Mhm.
I don't know what to tell you, but that guy's not like that's a different part. He's experiencing a different story because he's got a testosterone score of 1,000. Like that's different.
Over a
I'm not,
thousand.
yeah, I'm
Woo!
not saying it's good or bad. It's just that's part of the story. Like you're probably not going to look like he does. Make the choice. And also, no shame about that stuff too. The pharmacology for the right person is can be very. I know a lot of women are on testosterone replacement now too. I know a
I
lot of
love
person
it.
like.
I use that shit like moisturizer. Just give me a little more. Oh yeah, it's been. Yeah, and I never had a muscle building problem necessarily, but the I did notice a loss when my hormones changed that it was not usual.
Yeah.
And the amount of like protein that I'd have to try to eat with my workouts shifted and I'm yeah, I agree. And I also like think that it's really important to find practitioners who will work with you on all and any of this so that you can find something that works for you in that time period of your life and know that it changes. Like we were talking earlier about a conversation on HRT here, which would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of women are like, well, my mother got through perimenopause fine. I'm like, yeah, was that the decade she divorced your father? And like, there's, I had a woman write me recently and say, like, why are you guys all doing all this stuff? It's not like you invented menopause or something. And I was like, yeah, but I tell you what, we're doing it better than you did, bitches.
Yeah.
Thanks for warning us.
Well, and to be fair, and this is a huge issue that I think needs to be talked about more, or a conception or misconception that needs to be addressed more, is that the hormone replacement therapy, Jesus, hormone replacement therapy was associated with, was it breast cancer risk?
Cancer risks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
So
massive
estrogen feeding, and it
misclassified.
wasn't,
Yeah.
it was specifically estrogen. And that was a poor study done in the early 2000s, late 90s, I think. And it was used so widely
Right.
that everything, like, it's a correction of PR right now. But I think that correction is taking place. And it's
True
interesting
for
'cause-
us. I don't know. Like I do think it's a slow moving thing. Like we're at the tip of the spear on the. I think it's slowly trickling down, and through conversations like this, I hope.
but it's
Like,
still
oh,
not covered by insurance.
correct. Right.
So you can't, like, before I was taking progesterone, I would be up for like 2 hour stints at night. Like my sleep just decided to not happen anymore. You become psychotic. That is not a healthy way to go through life. And I don't know how many women have assumed that their like vitality was past them
Yeah.
because of sleep deprivation. And for some reason, well, I can guess the patriarchy. We can't get those kinds of things covered as essential. Like, oh, it's okay for us to decline and become useless to society and useless to our families and useless in jobs because our brains don't work anymore. But you won't pay like the very small amount of money it is to go and get these hormones.
Amy, you've reproduced, and that's I don't know what
No
use we
more
have for you
value.
anymore.
Mm-mm.
It's not. It's actually not funny, but we'll make light of it.
But
Just to say.
accurate.
Yeah. I mean, it's covered to be covered for me. If I need hormone replacement or if I need testosterone, like, sweet, sign me
Yeah.
up. Give me my.
Yeah, see, isn't that sort of interesting? Is anybody in your white male privileged circle asking questions about that discrepancy?
Well, it's a bit selfish, but when the women around you are their moods are changing and they're feeling a lot better through testosterone replacement, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like maybe I'm not saying that's me. I get it, but maybe that will turn the tides. Maybe the patriarchy will have the observational ability to say, you know what, maybe we should start handing this out like candy, and we'll have happier lives and everything will be better.
Right. Yeah. Because, yeah. Oh my gosh, I have a bunch of very inappropriate things to say here on the podcast about how we're only going to get estrogen because it lubricates our vaginas for our needy husbands.
I can't wait for the disclaimer I'm going to have to open this podcast with. This will be great. This will be good. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a weird, like, it's such a, I think this is a frustrating industry to be involved in because things move so slow. Potentially for good. Like, I think that I'm a slow adopter in a lot of things in this field because I kind of want to see the long tail of what happens.
The research, like let the research roll. Yeah.
Yeah. Every 3 weeks there's a new.
You can just find stuff on the dark web.
What's that?
You're impatient. You can just find it on the dark
web. Oh yeah. Sure. I'm not sure impatience is the way to go. I think that we've seen enough, as I'm sure you have, diet fads and things coming out for carnivore was a favorite of mine where that was like, oh, I'm going carnivore. Oh, cool. Yeah. Vegetables are definitely bad. You should definitely not eat vegetables. Go for it. What could go wrong?
Yeah. I had a client tell me once that she was going carnivore and she just wanted me to support her, and I was like, yeah, that's not happening.
Come on over. Yeah, bring your own steaks. I'm not.
And liver. It's always like the grossest meat too. Like it's not even good stuff. They got to eat really gross things.
Have you watched the not Tiger King, Liver King documentary on Netflix?
Oh God, no. Is it
Yeah,
about
don't. It's
what?
not good. But you know how it goes. I mean, have you heard do you know the whole story of this whole thing?
No, I'm sheltered, but do
Okay.
tell me.
The short version is this Liver King character was going around talking about how all you had to do was eat meat and organ meat, especially organ meats, and that was the
Mhm.
secret to how he looked like. He looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger back when Arnold was bodybuilding. And he's like, everyone's like, you're on drugs. Nope, not on drugs. I just eat testicles and liver, and that's it. That's why I look like this. If you just follow my way and buy my stuff, like you can look like this too. And he
Mhm.
was adamant about this. And then finally, someone like hacked into his emails and found out he was on like $8,000 worth of supplements, testosterone, human growth hormone, and all sorts of stuff every single month. $8,000 a month. And he fell from grace, and I think he's just was in jail for threatening Joe Rogan, which was ironic. Uh,
Yeah, I know. They sound like friends.
yeah.
Throw
So, anyways,
Alex Huberman in there too.
what? No, is it Huberman? Alex Huberman? No,
No, was it Andrea's Andy and what?
you're
Huber.
Alex Hormozy, and oh my gosh, this is embarrassing because I used to
So we're not fans. He fell from grace. He doesn't get
Andrew
that
Huberman.
anymore.
Yeah, Andrew Huberman, right?
Yeah, it's an A.
Something. Yeah, I don't
Did
know.
you read that fantastic expose about all his ex-girlfriends? God,
No.
it was so good. It was so good. I was like, I knew it. I knew it.
Don't meet your heroes, everybody. That's
Yeah,
a good
yeah.
lesson.
That was a good one. When do we get to have another conversation? I'll just sit here all day and talk trash about famous people.
Let's we talked about this before the podcast, but we gotta coerce Tabby to come on and you guys can
Mm.
go all thing. We'll definitely have to disclaimer that one. That'll be great though.
Oh,
I might have to bring another white male on to balance this to, not have rocks thrown just at me. uh,
yeah. Well,
all
thanks
right.
for having me.
Yeah, thanks for
You
doing
have
this.
an appointment, so you probably got to roll.
All right, cool. Well, a pleasure. And I will see you soon.
All right, I'll see you at the gym, Kenny. Have a good day.
All right. You too, Amy.
Bye.
All right. Thank you for listening. As always, if you are not a member yet at Sandpoint Strength and Conditioning and you feel like you need some help on your fitness, nutrition, or life journey, we are here to help. Send me an email, kenny@sandpointstrength.com, or check out our website, sandpointstrength.com, and book a free consult. We'll be happy to help. All right.